Hey everybody, I'm Tara Smiley with DeRosa Living. I'm on the property management side, and I want to introduce you to Eric Lizama, who just newly joined us formally in the asset manager role at DeRosa Group.
I came in with DeRosa initially as an intern when I was retiring from the military. Came in as an intern, focused on asset management because I have an operations background. After the intern was completed, I stayed with DeRosa as their education manager. We built that out to what it is today and eventually transitioned into what I really enjoy, which is operations. So I came in as the asset manager.
And we got to take Eric on his first official AM World Tour to our Kentucky portfolio. So as a lot of you guys know, we have 8 different properties in Kentucky. Now, most of them are kind of all centralized in one specific area of Kentucky, and the others are about 20 minutes away. But so Eric got to tour every single property this week, got to meet all the managers, most if not all of the individual staff members that are there, and spend a lot of quality time with both myself and my regional manager, who has the overarching responsibility of compliance and direction, and from a property management standpoint, running that entire portfolio. So Eric, having gotten to see all the 8 different assets, 4 or 5 different managers, what was kind of like your driving force and goals while you were there getting to see this portfolio?
Yeah, so really for this specific visit, I had 2 primary objectives as the asset manager. The first objective was to build upon the relationships that we've already established with our employees, because I think a lot of people forget that when you're visiting properties, you're not just visiting the property, you're also visiting your team, the employees, and you're building on that relationship. So my first goal was to meet every team member at every property, get to know them, get to know what makes them tick, what motivates them. And then the second objective was getting a better sense of the needs of each property, because what you see on paper doesn't necessarily always correlate to what you actually see on the ground.
Yep, absolutely. We talk with DeRosa obviously about superpowers. Within property management, in that side of the industry with multifamily assets, we also talk about superpowers, but in a different way. And so 2 of the key super players will be the PM working with the AM, right? And so it's translating the owner's goals, initiatives, and kind of future projected plans into the PM side, which is who's making all those future projected plans actually work and putting them into action and implementation. And so Eric and I got to spend a lot of time walking the properties, meeting the staff, touring vacant units, touring rent-ready units, really with the intended purpose of, on a vacant unit, asking the site team, what is it going to take to turn this unit? How do we do that? What gets vendored out? So there's your expense line items. What gets done in-house? There's cost savings items. What works? What doesn't? Where do we need to make changes to benefit you and benefit the leasing process? And then on a rent-ready item, really kind of judging it from a compliance standpoint, because obviously from the asset manager side, Eric has this vision in his head of what a finished product should look like. And from a property management side, I have the same. And so between our collective superpowers, it's taking those 2 visions and seeing, okay, is this meeting out in this finished product that we have in front of us? We got to spend some time with managers. Like Eric said, we got to figure out what makes them tick, figure out what kind of problems they're having. We've had some properties that are just being heavily hit by evictions right now. And also what some of their successes are and where their ideas are to be able to maximize revenue and then conserve on the expense side. And so one of the items that Eric was able to identify was that, hey, for a lot of apartments at this one property that we have, we're not replacing flooring, we're just scrubbing carpets. And so we're spending about $150 per unit with a vendor. What if we did it ourselves? Could the maintenance team do that? And so Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of your thought process and trying to come up with that plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the P&L, the profit and loss statement, looking at how often we turn units, looking at the cost for vendors for each item, right? Whether it's painting, whether it's carpet cleaning, whether it's flooring, whatever the case is, always trying to cut expenses and really maximize the NOI at the end of the day. So one thing that we came up with collectively was, okay, so if we turn every unit, part of the expense for every turn is carpet cleaning, right? Deep cleans. And for one apartment, we were looking at about $200 per turn for just the carpet cleaning alone. And as an asset manager, thinking long term, not just what is in front of me today, we came up with, hey, instead of paying for a vendor to come in and clean, why don't we just purchase our own commercial grade carpet cleaner? It costs a few $100s, and we can cut expense by 75% for just the carpet cleaning for every single term. So that's one thing that we looked at as far as long-term management of expenses. So looking to save this one purchase for this one apartment, we're looking to save $150 per unit per term. If you times that by 8 properties in our portfolio in just Kentucky alone, I mean, the savings is astronomical long term. And again, increasing the NOI and eventually increasing your exit price when it's time to sell or refi.
Yep. So aside from looking at curb appeal, looking at rent-ready units, vacant units, talking about turns, talking about leasing strategies, concessions, specials, evictions, the other thing that is super helpful when you have an asset manager or you have a property manager, or in this situation, both on site, is to really be able to take advantage of that time and talk about CapEx plans, right? Talk about what kind of projects we have on deck, large to small, and then also talk about what our projected items are, effectively the property's wants and needs list, whether it's for the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the road. And so we are really looking at both immediate needs and developing a strategy for later. So with multifamily, as we definitely know, and as most of you guys know, if you're venturing into this field, you're going to deal with 3 different types of projects and planning items: lenders, insurance requirements, and then just your basic deferred maintenance in combination with what your own personal wants and needs are for this. So as most of you guys know, we do a lot of value add properties. And so that comes into play with the units themselves, but it also comes into play with amenities, the exterior of a building, not just from an aesthetic, but also from a functional perspective. So Eric, I know when we were in Kentucky, we were looking at lender items, right? And so some of those are short-term, long-term. How do you, as an asset manager, how are you kind of developing a strategy to attack and knock down the lender items and the insurance items so that we can hit completion?
Yeah, for both lender and insurance items, or for like deferred maintenance, really, both the lender and your insurance carrier will clearly delineate what are life safety items, what can be completed or fixed within the next 30 days, and then usually what can be repaired or fixed in the next 180 days. So we'll take a look at that first. We'll rack and stack the life safety items and ensure that we're getting to that as quickly as we can. Obviously, with looking at manpower restrictions and budget constraints. So you have to take those things into consideration, because if you're doing it in-house, again, there is a priority of effort in everything that you do. If everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. So one of those things is discussing what those lender and insurance repair items are, what those deferred maintenance items are, working with your regional manager at that location to prioritize those items so that we can get to it in a systematic way, and we're not just throwing money or manpower at something and then dropping something else.
Eric, as you guys have probably already heard in the last couple of minutes, Eric has a lot of catchphrases. Rack 'em and stack 'em is definitely one of those. But Eric also has another catchphrase that is incredibly applicable to multifamily asset management, multifamily ownership, and property management. So Eric, go ahead and share with the people one of your favorite sayings and phrases to live by.
So one of them, I hope I'm getting at what you're asking here, Tara, but a significant takeaway for me from this visit in Kentucky is you can't expect what you don't inspect, right? So what that means is without visiting the properties and engaging with the teams on site, it's almost impossible to fully understand the situation on the ground in order to make informed or educated decisions, right? So what I said earlier is what's on paper isn't always the truth, what's on the ground. So you have to take what's on paper, you have to take what people tell you, visit the property, inspect what you need to inspect, and then make your own educated decision on what needs to happen moving forward.
I think ultimately at the end of the day, guys, when you are either an asset manager, when you are a GP, single owner, however your deal works for you, it's, yes, you need to be looking at your reports and making evaluative decisions based on the reports, based on the metrics. But to Eric's point, you've got to be boots on the ground. This is a very expensive piece of property that you own. It's also whether it's 10 homes, 20 homes, 300 homes, it's people's homes. And so this carries a lot of weight. It carries a lot of importance across a variety of categories and fields and peoples. So being boots on the ground, taking the information that you're getting from your reporting, meeting it out with the things that you're seeing will allow you to kind of build that comprehensive viewpoint so that you can make decisions in the moment when you're right then and there, and also be able to do your projective planning for the future, for the success of the asset, for, as Eric said, the success of your exit strategy, whether that's 1 year, 3 years, 10 years down the road. You are making plans today that will impact your future, the success of this asset, and the residents who call this place their home. Eric, if somebody's watching and they like this information and they like getting the tips and tricks from you and I, where do they find out more of this?
Yeah, so if you want to learn how to do this, how to be an asset manager, or if you're into property management and you want to learn more, be sure to check out our Accelerator Program. Link below. So ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more.
Thank you guys so much. And Eric, looking forward to the next trip with you.
Yeah, absolutely, Tara. I had a blast. Always do, always will. And I look forward to our next trip as well.
See ya.